I shine so bright, because I know I deserve to be loved. Every time I watch The Greatest Showman, this scene still hits me hard. Philip was born into a wealthy family, but he fell in love with Anne, a performer from the circus. One came from the upper class, the other came from the bottom of society. Their huge difference in status made Anne unable to accept their relationship. To help the circus gain respect, Philip decided to help them enter high society. He got them a chance to perform for the British Queen at Buckingham Palace. But during the party, when Anne finally tried to get closer to him, Philip saw his parents' reaction, and he backed away. He let go of Anne's hand. The performers thought they were finally accepted. They happily went to the celebration, but they never expected their unusual appearances would make the nobles reject them again. The party that was meant for them still closed its doors on them. After a short moment of sadness, they walked back toward the crowd. They stopped caring about the insults around them. They stepped onto the stage and proved they deserved to be seen, and also stood under the spotlight, facing Philip's choice directly. These people were once called freaks by society: a bearded woman, a little person, an albino performer, a man with an unusual body. They were all rejected by the world, but because of Barnum's support, they finally found their place on stage. For the first time, they believed they were worthy of attention, but the irony was, the person who later pushed them away was Barnum himself. Barnum was once just like them. He was born into a poor family. As a child, he followed his tailor father, doing the lowest jobs. He suffered from people's insults and judgment. Even making his employer's daughter laugh was seen as crossing a line. But Barnum never accepted his fate. When Charity's wealthy father tried to stop them from seeing each other, Barnum secretly stayed close with her. Even after Charity was sent away to boarding school, he kept writing letters to her, and never gave up on the girl he loved. At that time, Barnum had also lost his father. He became an orphan with nothing. He struggled just to survive. Sometimes he had to steal, but he still believed he could create a better future for the woman he loved. When he grew up, he had no fortune or status, but he still brought Charity into his life. Facing his father-in-law's insults, Barnum decided to prove himself. He wanted to show everyone he was not the failure they believed he was. But he underestimated how hard life was for people at the bottom. Even after years of working hard, he was still just an ordinary employee. His 2 daughters were growing up, but the whole family still lived in a small old house that leaked when it rained. Then things became even worse. The shipping company he worked for lost all its ships in a disaster, and all the workers were fired. These ordinary workers had no power, and no chance to fight back. This was not the life Barnum promised his family. Since the rules of the upper class would never give people like him a chance, he decided to take a different path. He used the ship contracts he had taken from the company, and got a huge loan from the bank. Then he bought a museum in the center of the city. He wanted to create a place that was completely different from high society, a place showing rare animals and unusual collections. But reality quickly hit him. On the first day of opening, not a single ticket was sold. People who were used to fancy art did not care about these strange exhibits. They thought they were not classy enough. The business quickly failed, until one sentence from his daughter helped Barnum see a new direction. He started searching for unique people who had been ignored by society. He found a bearded woman, a tattooed performer, a giant, a little person, a hairy man, and other unusual performers. Then he used creative advertising to turn them into the center of attention. These people had always been rejected. At first, they could not accept their differences, and they did not want to become a tool for making money. But when Barnum truly understood them and gave them a chance to shine, they finally chose to follow him. The circus was about to change their lives. With the circus being created, those people who were once ignored finally had a stage of their own. Their performances quickly became a success. More and more people came to watch them. Barnum finally proved himself. But success brought more than applause. It also brought criticism. Because of his exaggerated marketing, many people accused him of tricking the audience. Some critics attacked them in newspapers, saying they only used strange appearances to attract attention. Some people even came to the circus and publicly insulted the performers. Facing all these attacks, Barnum became extremely angry, because in his eyes, these performers were not tools for making money. They were people like him, people who had been ignored by society. They came from the bottom, but they still had their own value. The judgment from the upper class made Barnum want to fight back. Since those people refused to accept them, he decided to create a world that belonged to outsiders like them. He used the negative reviews as a way to promote the circus. He even turned those insults into the name of the show. He also created special ticket deals, so more ordinary people could watch the performances. From that moment on, the circus was packed every night. Barnum reached the peak of his career. The promises he made to his wife and daughters finally came true one by one. He even bought a mansion near his father-in-law's house, almost like he wanted to prove that he had finally succeeded. When critics attacked him face to face, Barnum could now stay calm. The circus's success made him believe he had found a way for people from the bottom to enter the world of the wealthy. He thought he had escaped the pain of being looked down on as a child. But things soon started to change. When his daughter was rejected at school because of her background, Barnum finally realized success could not change people's views about class. No matter how much money he had, some people would still see him as the poor kid from the past. To make sure his daughter would not suffer like him, Barnum decided to make the circus accepted by high society. So he went to find Philip, a famous playwright from a wealthy family. Barnum wanted to use Philip's status to give the circus more respect. At first, Philip did not want to work with Barnum, because many people thought the circus had a bad reputation, but they shared the same passion for art, and Philip also fell in love with Anne. In the end, he decided to join Barnum. Philip's connections were stronger than they expected. The first thing he did for the circus was helping them meet the British Queen at Buckingham Palace. This opportunity allowed Barnum to meet someone special, a famous singer named Jenny Lind. Jenny came from an ordinary background and became a world-famous performer through her talent. Her story made Barnum believe that he could also be accepted by the elite world, so he invited Jenny to perform in New York. Jenny's arrival showed Barnum a new possibility. He believed that if he gained approval from the wealthy class, he could finally change how people saw him. But he did not realize the circus that helped him reach success was slowly becoming something he ignored. Jenny's performances became a huge success. The applause from the upper class grew louder, but that recognition started changing everyone's choices. Philip faced pressure from his family, and once again hid his relationship with Anne. At the same time, when Barnum received approval from his father-in-law, his old insecurity returned. He finally got the respect he had always wanted, but deep down, he still felt like he did not truly belong. So he wanted to prove himself even more. He wanted to enter the world that once rejected him. To get closer to high society, he started focusing more on Jenny, and slowly forgot the circus that had been with him from the beginning. He even avoided bringing his original performers to important social events. At that moment, the performers realized the man who once brought them into the spotlight was now pushing them back into the darkness. They were hurt by his choice, but they refused to give up. They returned to the stage and proved once again that they deserved to be seen. But Barnum was still lost in his new success. All he cared about was taking Jenny on a world tour and finally removing the label that he had carried for years. Even his wife and daughters tried to stop him, but he did not turn back. Jenny's world tour began. Her career became more successful than ever, but at the same time, the circus started falling apart. Without Barnum managing things, the criticism kept growing, but Barnum was completely unaware. He was lost in the applause and praise, until Jenny finally revealed her feelings. Only then did Barnum realize their relationship had gone too far for fame and success. He had ignored his partners, and almost forgotten why he started, but he never chose to betray his wife. Barnum rejected Jenny. This left her embarrassed and angry. The next day, she kissed Barnum on stage in front of everyone, and their relationship became public. Just when Barnum finally woke up from this dream, he returned home, only to find the circus had been burned down. Philip thought Anne was still inside, so he rushed into the fire to save her. In the end, Barnum arrived in time and rescued Philip, but the performers were badly injured. The museum they built was now nothing but ruins. At the same time, the photo of Barnum kissing Jenny was published in the newspaper. The bank also discovered his old loan problems and demanded the mansion back. After learning everything, his wife was completely disappointed. She took the children and left Barnum. The success he once had disappeared overnight. Barnum sat alone in a bar, drinking and thinking about everything he lost. He believed he had nothing left, but he did not realize a group of people were still standing beside him. They told him maybe he had made mistakes, maybe he lost his way, but the circus was still their family. It was the first place where they ever felt accepted. Only then did Barnum truly understand his mistake. He created the circus in the beginning, not to impress the rich, but to give rejected people a place to belong. But later, he tried so hard to enter high society that he hurt the people who trusted him most. Luckily, everyone was willing to give him another chance. After going through life and death together, Philip and Anne finally accepted their feelings for each other, and Barnum found his original purpose again. He understood the most important thing was never other people's approval. It was the people who always stayed by his side. After everything settled down, Philip used all his savings to help Barnum rebuild the circus, but the money was still not enough to buy another grand building. Then Barnum came up with a new idea. They did not need a huge museum, they only needed a tent. Soon, a red and white circus tent was built again. The circus that had been destroyed came back to life. The lights turned on once more, the familiar performers returned to the stage, and the audience filled the seats again. Everyone worked together to create another unforgettable show. At the most important moment of the performance, Barnum handed the spotlight to Philip. He left the circus and rode an elephant to his daughter's ballet show. This time, he finally chose his family. He finally understood what truly mattered. The Greatest Showman was inspired by the real life of P.T. Barnum. He once fought to escape the judgment that came with his poor background. He chased the impossible approval from the wealthy world and almost lost everything important to him. But only after losing it all did he understand the people others called different, the people society ignored, were the ones who made the world more colorful. The spotlight should not belong only to the privileged. Every person who is different deserves a chance to shine. In the end, Barnum let go of his pride and ambition. He returned to his family and gave the stage back to every unique person. That was the true meaning of The Greatest Showman.